be able to present new legislation, which will be called C-6, which implements the promises we made in the course of the election campaign on citizenship. And there are three parts to this. Under the old law, C-24, people could have their citizenship revoked if they were convicted of serious crimes, but only if they were dual citizens. So effectively that meant we had two classes of citizen, two-tiered citizen, and it was our position, the Liberal position, throughout the campaign and since, that there should be only one class of Canadian, not two, and that all Canadians are equal, and that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. So as a consequence of this law, it will no longer be possible for the government or the minister to revoke an individual's citizenship as a consequence of convictions for any of these criminal offenses. We also believe that the previous law was seen by many as a slippery slope. If you could have your citizenship removed for crime X this year, it might turn into crime Y the following year. And there was also some uncertainty about the definition of dual citizenship. So none of that matters anymore. The points are moot because nobody can have their citizenship revoked for these crimes. We believe that we deal with crimes through our criminal justice system, through our prisons. Criminals are sent to jail, and we do not need a two-tier citizenship system to supplement our system based on criminal law. The second element is that we are going to reduce some of the barriers to citizenship that were erected by the previous law, and I will name you 5 instances. We will return the age range for language requirements to where it was before, which is to say 18 to 54, rather than 14 to 64 under the previous law. Second, we will repeal the intent to provide provision in the old law. There was some legitimate concern at the time that this provision could have resulted in citizenship revocation down the road. Third, we will restore the 50% credit for time spent in Canada by international students. If the citizenship revocation was the worst part of the previous law, we think that the rule on international students was the stupidest part, because Canada needs international students. We want them to become permanent residents and citizens. So we want to court them. We're in competition for this good talent from other countries. So it makes no sense at all to take away their well-earned 50% of time spent in Canada credit. So we will certainly change that. Fourth, we will retain a physical presence requirement in Canada, but it will be 3 out of the last 5 years instead of 4 out of 6, which means that people can apply to be citizens 1 year earlier. And finally, this is not part of the legislation, but there's a book for aspiring citizens called Discover Canada, and we think it's a little heavy on things like the War of 1812 and barbaric cultural practices. So we will review this book. And finally, the third point is that while we are reducing some of these barriers and ending citizenship revocation, at the same time we have to maintain integrity and the integrity of our program, and we have to ensure that the conditions for people to become Canadians are real and meaningful. And so to that end, we are retaining the rules about physical presence and language requirement albeit for somewhat different categories of people. And we're also adding a new authority for the government to seize documents that are thought to be or expected to be fraudulent. So in those ways, we will both reduce barriers that we consider unnecessary and maintain program integrity and the condition that real and meaningful achievements are required to become a Canadian.
Good morning, Minister. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Why is the PRC processing time is taking so long?
Yeah, that is a problem. I will acknowledge that, and I've been looking into that, and we are seeking ways to reduce that processing time because I agree with you, it is too long. The department is telling me that actions are being taken to bring that amount of time down, but I would be the first to agree with you that right now, or in past weeks, months, it has taken too long. So we are acting now to try to improve that as quickly as we can.
And what can the permanent residents do when it's taking more than 8 months? And they've been waiting for 8 months, not being able to travel. What can they do?
Well, if it takes too much time, I think they can talk to their member of parliament, who can then approach me, because the department has set a certain amount of time, but if the time is more than what the department has said it should be, then they can seek help. But we are hoping to resolve that issue by bringing down the amount of time.
When you said that there will be no more 2 classes of citizenship, does that also include? I've read article in the past that if someone who's a Canadian citizenship or a journalist who is supporting the BDS or the Israeli boycott, can they be criminalized and the punishment could be revoked their citizenship?
Absolutely not. What we are saying is that nobody can have their citizenship revoked for committing crimes, and that is the main difference between what the previous government did and what we are doing. The only grounds for removing citizenship is what we have always had, which is if you misrepresent who you are when you apply to be a citizen, then you can have your citizenship revoked. But that would be the only circumstance.
I would like to ask about the Syrian refugees. Are they going to have the same process as any other new immigrant? And they can become a Canadian citizen after 3 years or 4 years?
They will have exactly the same process. You see, one thing we want to do is we have to have a balance. We want to be very welcoming to Syrian refugees and to all refugees, but at the same time we don't want to be unfair to other Canadians. And so we want the Syrian refugees to become citizens as quickly as possible, but we don't want to put them at the front of the queue compared with others who have been waiting. So they will be treated just the same way as all other permanent residents applying to be Canadian.
Thank you.